G'day, my name's Lachlan Morton. I just finished riding the Tour Divide route last night, and this is my bike setup. It's a Cannondale Scalpel Hardtail.
Hi everyone, Mike here from Bikes by Mike with another cycling related video. Today I weigh in on one of the most talked about cycling questions: has gravel peaked? As a complete sideliner when it comes to gravel, I'll point to 3 indicators that suggest to me that the trend is going in one direction, and that direction is not up. Okay, let's get to it. In today's video, I'll start off by sharing my thoughts on the gravel scene and why I don't own a gravel bike. Next, I'll present the million-dollar question, the answer to which I think will determine whether gravel thrives or suffers in the coming years. I'll then go into my 3 indicators that gravel is on the decline, starting with a discussion on tire widths, moving on to fork suspension, and the third one relating to Lachlan Morton's 2 epic gravel race wins. Finally, I'll wrap things up with my final thoughts. Before I give you my almost completely uninformed position on where I think the gravel segment is heading, I should mention that I don't ride gravel. Well, I've ridden gravel on my mountain bike, road bike, commuter bike, and fat bike, but not on a gravel bike. And while I found the experience riding gravel on those bikes quite boring, I'm told by true gravel riders that if I did ride gravel, it would blow my mind. So maybe I'm missing out on the best thing in cycling right now, or maybe not. I'll never know, as I may never try it. While the appeal for road cycling and mountain biking is obvious to me, I can't say the same for gravel riding. Gravel sits somewhere in between road cycling and mountain biking. While road cycling has speed going for it and mountain biking challenges one technical riding, gravel lacks the appeal of both. Yes, gravel bikes do let you access more rideable terrain, which no doubt is a good thing. I'll certainly give it that. Just don't spend too much time riding on asphalt and you'll be wishing you were riding a road bike. And don't try tackling single-track mountain bike trails, as all the good stuff will be unrideable. But I'm not doing this video to bash gravel, really. I'm happy with any niche that gets more people on bikes, even e-bikes. I'm just curious to see where gravel is headed in the coming years, and that's what this video is all about. In my opinion, there's nothing that will determine the fate of gravel bikes more than the answer to this question. What is a gravel bike? Let me explain. Depending on how you look at the gravel bike, it could be the most specialized, small s specialized, bike on the planet or the ultimate all-rounder. If the gravel bike is indeed unique to all other bikes, and if it can't be matched by any other bike for riding gravel, then I don't think gravel has peaked. But if the gravel bike is looked at by most riders as a jack of all trades, master of none kind of rig, then I think the days of the gravel bike are numbered. But whatever the scenario, gravel riding will live on because cyclists were riding just fine on gravel roads long before the gravel bike hit the market. But are gravel bikes truly unique to other bikes? That's the million-dollar question in my opinion. Do they fill a gap that can't be filled by any of the existing categories of bikes we have today? While a road bike is clearly the best bike for paved roads and the mountain bike is best for off-road trails, gravel bikes don't seem to serve a purpose that these 2 bikes or other existing classes of bikes can't fill. Stick the widest tires that fit onto your road bike frame and you'll get along just fine on the gravelly stuff. Swap out your 2.4-inch mountain bike tires for 2.1s and you'll be flying on those gravel roads. As I mentioned, cyclists were riding bikes on gravel roads long before the cycling industry branded gravel bikes. Nothing new or really innovative is here, at least not yet. Some are projecting that the gravel bike segment is about to split up into further specialized sub-segments. And if that happens, that may be the savior to the gravel market. If the gravel bike never progresses beyond the ultimate all-rounder jack-of-all-trades bike that marketing departments peg them as, then I'm not optimistic about the future of gravel. Jack-of-all-trades, master-of-none products typically get called out in the long run for not being all that great at anything. Examples are everywhere. Take all-season tires. For decades, they were marketed by tire companies as being the only tire you need for all 4 seasons. The tire industry now acknowledges that all-season tires are not suitable for winter use, even in locations that get very little snow. Within the bike industry itself, we have our own example. Hybrids, or hybrid mountain bikes, sold by the truckload in the early 90s, like the Trek Navigator 600. Constructed of aluminum frame with mid-range components, a suspension seat post, and suspension fork. This is a much different beast than the purposeful flat bar road bike of today. Looking at the hybrid, it's difficult to understand why they were designed this way or who they were designed for. It's no surprise that the popularity tanked over the years, because they have no target market. If you pare back the marketing BS, they're nothing more than ugly garage ornaments. Now don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that gravel bikes are useless like all-season tires and hybrids, because unlike those two, gravel bikes do have a target audience and do work well for what they are intended for, which is riding gravel roads. So many industry insiders appear convinced or trying to convince the public that gravel will grow forever, but I just don't buy it. So let me now present to you 3 factors in defense of my position that gravel has indeed peaked or is near its peak. As with every other cycling discipline, tire widths on gravel bikes, especially gravel race bikes, has increased over the years. Where in the early days you'd commonly see tires as narrow as 34 millimeters wide, today the upper limit is around 50 millimeters. Let's take a closer look at the bikes ridden at this year's Unbound Gravel race. Among the top riders, 45 to 50 millimeter wide tires were the norm. And many believe that gravel tire widths will continue to widen and max out around 55 millimeters, which is 2.2 inches. That is equal to the width the tire used on most cross-country mountain bikes just a couple years ago. Or maybe gravel will simply adopt mountain bike tires, as did at least one rider that was spotted with a hefty 2.25-inch Maxxis mountain bike tire. We saw this trend take hold at this year's Tour Divide race, where the most common tire choice was 2.2 and 2.25-inch or 56 and 57 millimeter wide tires. So any way you cut it, the tires used on gravel and mountain bikes are very similar. Taking another page from mountain bike setup is fork suspension. Yes, suspension forks have made their way to gravel bikes in the last couple of years. Several brands are now offering suspension forks on their gravel bikes, with the bike brand Luf as an example. Luf also makes complete bikes with their Luf Sigla equipped with their unique leaf-sprung 30mm travel grit fork. Just like on mountain bikes, suspension forks soften up the ride quite a bit over a bike with a rigid fork. It used to be that gravel bikes were almost indistinguishable from road bikes, except for the bulkier tires. But now with the combined move to mountain bike style tires as well as suspension forks, the line between gravel and hardtail mountain bikes is getting blurred. The only obvious distinguishing feature between the two are the handlebars, where gravel bikes typically have drop bars, mountain bikes have flat bars. And even the weight discrepancy between the two styles of bikes is no longer that great. Let's compare the Luf Sigla Weekend Warrior gravel bike with a similarly priced hardtail mountain bike, say the Cannondale HT Scalpel Carbon 3. The Luf weighs 9.2 kilograms, 20.2 pounds, versus the Cannondale Carbon 3 at 10.6 kilos, or 23.4 pounds. So only 1.5 kilos difference between the two. That's not that much of a weight penalty given the robustness of mountain bikes and the significantly more fork travel offered. In the case of the Cannondale Lefty, 110 millimeters. Now, I know there are other differences between gravel bikes and mountain bikes, such as frame geometry, but my point is that the differences between the two is narrowing significantly. The Tour Divide Ultra Cycling Race is a good place to look when talking about gravel riding in gear. It's one of the most important ultra cycling gravel races in the world. It crisscrosses the Continental Divide, starting in Banff, Alberta, Canada, and finishes at the US-Mexican border in New Mexico. A total of about 2,700 miles or 4,200 kilometers. Looking at the stats of the types of bikes used in the race, we see a lot of gravel bikes, a lot of mountain bikes, and stuff in between. We see almost an equal split between drop bar and flat bar bikes, and half the riders choosing to run a suspension fork. Finally, the preferred tire width by quite a margin was 2.2 inch and 2.25 inch tires. So among the Tour Divide racers, there is no agreement on what type of bike is fastest over gravel. And what I take from that is that there probably isn't that much difference in performance among the bikes. What's interesting is that this year's winner, the new official record holder, Justinas Levecka, rode the Trek Super Caliber full suspension mountain bike with 80 millimeters of travel. Lachlan Morton, who last year set the unofficial fastest time, which still stands today, did it on a Cannondale Scalpel hardtail mountain bike. And what's even more interesting is that Morton won this year's Unbound Gravel single-day race on a road bike, the Cannondale Super 6 EVO. So I guess this all demonstrates that if you want to go super fast on gravel, then just don't use a gravel bike. I think specialization and segmentation of the gravel market needs to happen to really give gravel bikes a purpose, or more of a purpose than other bikes that can be ridden over gravel. But even then, while I see segmentation benefiting top-level gravel racers, those aren't the riders that buy most bikes, and those aren't the riders that allow bike companies to prosper. It's the general public. Maybe the only solution is for bike companies to pay pro riders not to win gravel races on road bikes and mountain bikes. Yeah, that's the ticket. So that is it for my take on where I see gravel headed. I may be wrong. I'm wrong all the time. We'll see. Tell me what you think. Has gravel peaked and why? That's all I got for today, folks. If you like this video, please give me a thumbs up and share it with your friends. And if you're not a subscriber to this channel, please subscribe as allow me to produce more content for all of you. See you next time. Happy rolling.